Welcome to the Rent to Rent Success podcast, all about creating consistent cash flow, escaping the 9-to-5, and really living life on your terms. This is the only podcast entirely dedicated to helping you achieve rent to rent success. It's our place to inspire each other to believe bigger, to be bolder, and to be game changers for good. I'm Stephanie Taylor, your guide on this exciting ride. Let's start up the engines and get ready to fly. Hello, 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 and welcome aboard the very first episode of the Rent to Rent Success podcast. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here with you today. So much has gone into planning this, so we can give you our roadmap to rent success in a new way. And so you can have all of this juicy goodness while you're out walking, running. I believe some of you crazy people do that. Driving, even in bed, in the bath. I get carried away now. But while you're out and about, we can be together. And I absolutely adore listening to podcasts. So it's just incredible now to be here recording one of our own. And let's dive right into today's show. Today, we're talking about why we launched this podcast, why we do what we do, and why you're listening today. Because the fact that you've joined me here today tells me something about you. You're different. You're part of the 5% who want more out of life, who want more than the 9-to-5, more income, more freedom, more impact. You want to change the game in your life, in your family's life, in our world. And that's why we launched this podcast. We've been working on this for some time because we know that we were meant to help others, to help you. And maybe you can relate to Susie, who I spoke with recently. Susie's proud of the money she makes. She's worked damn hard to qualify. She worked her way up through the ranks. Her career isn't her life, though. She wants to spend more time with her family, and she's fed up having to spend so much time at work, especially when it requires stays in hotels away from her family. And she hates having to ask before booking a holiday, hates having to miss school plays, and hates feeling so damned exhausted. And she's frustrated too because now in her 40s, she hasn't saved as much as she'd hoped that she would have done. She's earning, but she's not holding on to or growing that income because, let's face it, children are expensive. And now she worries about the future, paying university tuition in 10 years, funding retirement. And she knows she needs to invest and build wealth for the future, to fund her retirement, to leave a legacy. But how can she start? She doesn't have 50K in the bank to buy properties. And maybe that's you as well. You're solvent, but you don't have the property investments that you'd like. Or maybe the recent times have made you realize that you're not as solvent as you thought. Or they reminded you that how much your lifestyle depends on your job. And you wonder what would happen if your role were made redundant. How easy would it be to walk back into a new role, especially now when everyone's looking? And ultimately, you just want a better plan. And in this podcast, I'd love to show you how to get started to consistent cash flow without buying a single property, to take that first step and start off with cash flow and then buy the assets for long-term wealth. And that's why we launched this podcast. So, welcome, game changers. We're going to go on an incredible journey together. In this episode, I'm going to talk about how I got here because I was very much like Susie. And now people say to me, but it's all right for you. It's all right for you, Steph, because you're confident. You're a businesswoman. You're a speaker. You're a coach. You run businesses with revenues over £500,000 a year. You've bought your own portfolio of properties. It's all right for you, they say. But it wasn't always like this for me. This is very recent. And for those of you who are new to me and new to our podcast, I want to give you the backstory because I struggled. And sometimes to you, that struggle will be invisible. And one of the scariest things for me was uncovering that part of me and the failures which I was ashamed of. Because now I'm co-founder of HMO Heaven and Rent to Rent Success with my sister Nicky. But that wasn't always how it was. And let me just say about Nicky, because Nicky is the powerhouse in our business who makes things happen operationally. She tends to be behind the scenes, but she will be joining me in future episodes of the podcast, and you'll learn more about Nicky and more about her story. I'm hoping she'll be more in the foreground. But our complementary skills are so perfect for our business together that it kind of feels like our business was always meant to happen. Are you ready to take the next step, but you still have so many questions unanswered? We got you. You can get your free Rent to Rent Success Guide at renttoRentSuccess.com/guide. That's rentsuccess.com/guide, and it'll walk you through what Rent to Rent is all about, and you'll see whether it's right for you. Okay then, now let's get back to today's show. You maybe know me through property, but a few years ago things were very different, and it's not overstating things to say that since starting in 2016, property has changed our lives dramatically. And with so many failures to look back on, I know that I wouldn't have had the courage to try if it hadn't been for that phone call, which changed everything. And it was just an everyday happening that changed my world. My mum telephoned me one sunny morning. I was getting ready for work. I was in my beautiful Harbourside flat in Bristol. I was getting ready for the onslaught that was life at the bank. And Mum didn't call me in the mornings, and she rarely asks for anything. And that's why I should have taken it more seriously, because Mum was ill and I knew that. And she tried to sound upbeat on the phone, but I could hear that she was scared, and she called because she needed that reassurance that we all need when we feel sick or anxious or scared. And I feel so ashamed. Do you know, I just don't like telling this story, because no matter how many times I tell it, I still feel that knot in my stomach and that shame in my heart, because I was worried while we were on the phone. And yeah, I was worried about Mum, but also I was worried about work and being on time and the project meeting and the presentation and all these other things that I thought were so, so important. And that was the day that something changed for me, because as I sat at my desk in the afternoon, and it hit me like a punch in the belly, And it was at that moment when I let myself see what my heart already knew, that my mum was scared and alone in Birmingham, and I still went to work in Bristol, and I should have been with my mum, and that actually nothing was more important, not the projects, all the project meetings, all the deadlines, all the presentations, because the bank would have been absolutely fine without me, but my mum wouldn't. And for me, that well-paid contracting job at the bank was like a prison. I needed the work to fund the lifestyle that I didn't have time to enjoy. Or what if mum was really ill and I wanted to go to Birmingham for a few months at a time? Or what if mum was well and I wanted to just enjoy more time with her? What hit me that day with such clarity was that I wanted to be able to prioritize my life to the people and the things that mattered to me the most. And that's when I knew that I had to make it my reality to have more flexibility and to have a passion and a vision and a proper life and not just a job. And that day I made making the leap a must. And I finally committed to feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And mum is fine now. In fact, she's better than fine. She's in her 70s. She's got a new zest of life. And a couple of years ago, mum was having problems with her knee. And I thought walking might help a little bit. And I bought us all, Nicky, mum, and I, a Fitbit, and we had a family leaderboard. Well, Nicky and I faded away after a year or so, and mum is still going strong, walking over 20,000 steps a day. And I'm so proud of her dedication. She feels younger and healthier than she has in years. We spend more time together. Mum is looking after our gran, who's in her 90s. So at the moment, she wants to stay in Birmingham. And our business means that we know that when mum is ready, we can buy her a house here in Wales, and we're already on the lookout for it. Hey there. Are you curious about making money from properties you don't own? Watch your free Rent to Rent Success Masterclass and get the full lowdown on Rent to Rent with me. Get started at rent2rentsuccess.com/guide. That's rentsuccess.com/guide. You'll learn more about Rent to Rent and how it can change your life. Okay, now let's get back to the show. In the last few years, we've had business and financial success too, which far exceeds what I thought was possible at the start. We've built a thriving HMO management business, our rent-to-rent business, with contracts worth over £2 million. We've systemized our business and employed a full-time property manager, meaning I no longer work in our property business and can focus on helping others while our property business continues to grow. And we've started Rent to Rent Success to help you achieve success. And we've bought property worth over £1 million. I waited until I was in my 40s to start HMO Heaven, and I'm amazed by what has happened in a few short years since then. But what if I'd started 13 years ago or 23 years ago? All of those years I struggled financially as a single parent. If only I'd known. And our passion now is to help others realize that yes, you can. Yes, you can invest in property with little money. You can sack your boss within a year, and you can create a life you love. Everything you need for success is already within you. The first step is to believe that it's possible for you. And our wish for you is that you realize it before we did. Now I spend most of my time helping professionals to create a profitable property business, escape the 9 to 5, and live a life they love. Rent to Rent Success is not a faceless business. We started our coaching program and this podcast because we care about you and your success. We care deeply because we are you. We were where you are and have created a path for you to follow. We'd love to help you to escape your 9 to 5 and live life on your terms, to believe bigger, to be bolder, to be a game changer. Steph, what does that even mean? You ask. Believe bigger, malarkey. What are you talking about? Okay, let me explain. Why didn't I start until I was in my 40s? It wasn't lack of potential. It wasn't lack of ability. It wasn't lack of skills. It was lack of belief. Lack of yes, you can, and oversupply of no, you can't. This is what stopped me from starting HMO Heaven until the age of 45. And since then, I've realized that so many people have the desire for more. They secretly long to start their own business, but they let their doubts hold them back. And I wanted to help people realize, like I had, that the biggest obstacle to success, the biggest obstacle to your success is you. Because each of us has the desires that we are meant to have. As Les Brown says, don't let your desires die inside you, let them out into the world. There is so much unrealized potential. People who are pressing down their talents because they don't believe in themselves fully. And this is what drives everything we do. And our mission is to continue to inspire more people to believe bigger, be bolder, and be a game changer. These are the mottos we live by and embrace, and that we share with game changers like you. Believe bigger is about not standing in your own way. It's about honoring your desires and allowing yourself to fully believe in you. We can all do more than we're doing when we step out of our way. You are a star. You've already been successful. And in a year's time, I want you to be shocked and surprised by how much more you've achieved. Be bolder. This is about stepping up. It's time to stop hiding. It's about taking action and becoming who you are meant to be, being perfectly, imperfectly you. It's about loving all of you and letting everyone see. Yes, even your aunt, the one who's always been a little bit critical. And be a game changer. This is the exciting part where you get to change your life. You change how you see yourself as you step further into leadership in your own life. And as you build wealth, you change things materially for your family, community, and our wider world. You get to enjoy the beauty of giving, which we believe is why we're all here. The chance to be game changers and use the power of ethical property and entrepreneurship to change things for good. We've looked at our businesses and how we can start to be game changers for good too. We have joined B1G1. B1G1 is an online platform which connects businesses with projects all around the world. And we've chosen to provide business training for people in Malawi and Zimbabwe. And you're helping us to do that. We wanted it to be part of our everyday lives. So we've made it so that every time someone joins the Rent to Rent Kickstarter program or pays a monthly subscription to Rent Superstars, we contribute on your behalf. And for every podcast review we receive, we'll contribute too. So if you enjoy the podcast and leave a review, we'll make a contribution for you. I'm so excited to be with you, to share this with you, and we wish you every success. It's an incredible journey. So that's a wrap for today. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have, please subscribe and rate and review the podcast to help more people find us. And of course, you'll be helping young people start in business as well when we contribute through B1G1. So next week, we'll be getting started in rent to rent and how it can help you get started in property. Have a great rest of the week. And remember, believe bigger, be bolder, and be a game changer.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like the links for anything mentioned in today's episode, or if voice is not enough and you want to see us on video too, you can find all the show notes and lots more at renttorentsuccess.com. That's rent number 2, rentsuccess.com. If you've enjoyed today's episode, we'd super appreciate it if you would take a few minutes to review it in your podcast app. Remember, we'll be donating to our B1G1 charities too for each review you give. Until then, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer.